The eyes of Europe are on France. An entire continent is coming together. And these are our unwitting ambassadors.
I'm just here for the violence. I'm just here for the pushing. If you
It's the start of a major football tournament at the end of a major political campaign. And Channel 4 News has gone undercover with England fans. This is mid-afternoon, 22 miles from where a game is being played, and unprovoked. And perhaps most shocking of all, our team joined England fans the day after beating Wales 2-1, drinking en masse in Place de la Gare, the central square in Lille. Roma children wander the streets here. Some fans give them coins, some bump fists, and some are vile. This wasn't the only hate we witnessed aimed at Roma children. We also witnessed fans stepping up to defend. The night before, English and Russian fans clashed here. 37 went to police cells, 16 went to hospital. But today, among some England fans, the hostility still flows as freely as the beer.
Here we go.
And just 6 days before the most important democratic decision of many a generation, this was the message from one small section of society. And then came the misogyny. Two nights later, and the flock of fans have migrated to Lyon. England play Slovakia the next day. There are skirmishes throughout the city as local hardline hooligans, known as ultras, clash with our fans. Fresh from the fighting that night, we meet Alex. Happy to take on 40 fighters, unhappy that some England fans fled the violence. Regional pride that those who stood their ground were from his beloved northeast. Thousands of England fans in France are like these, here just to have a good time and enjoy the football. And the FA have been keen to point out that only a tiny minority of fans are involved in any violence. But a tiny minority is all it takes. And what happened to our ambassador on high? In his euphoria ripping up the flags of Europe in front of a baying crowd, he fails to notice his beloved England left blowing in the wind.
Season ID. Season. You there? It's the beginning of the season, and this mission is quite simple. All right, mates. Listen, I haven't got a lot of time for this, but here's the... Let's ride.
Anybody seen a fluffy animal? Anybody seen a fluffy animal? Are there any chairs?
Great. Some extra cash for a nice pint of beer.
Anybody seen a fluffy animal? Anybody seen a fluffy animal?
What? In there?
Anybody seen a fluffy animal?
In there.
In there.
Ah, let's have a beer, eh? Watch out, they call their mates inside the stadium.
Here comes trouble.
Looks like the fucking riot squad's gonna block the exits. You've got one leader left. Be careful.
Raving!
Okay.
You've killed someone from the other firm. They'll want revenge.
Entertainment to thousands of people. Through its magic, we are able to enjoy a combination of the radio, motion pictures, and the stage, right in the comfort of our own homes, simply by pushing a button and turning a dial. These cells with their electrical charges are scanned by a stream of electrons, completing 30 pictures a second. Compare that crude picture with these of today, and you can judge for yourself how far along the road to perfection television has traveled.
Most people still today think that all entertainment to do with movies, drama, is therefore nothing more than their entertainment. It never ever was that case.
Of course, television can't perform such miracles as this, yet. But perhaps there's no harm wishing that it could.
The greatest social messages are promoted through movies and drama, high drama, through the fixation of emotive sequences, emotional sequences, not logical, factual sequences, but pushing points across in an emotional way which register and fix in the mind. So emotional content is very, very important, rather than going through an actual discussion or an argument using logic and facts. There's no debate. And when you're being downloaded through fiction, your guard is down, the sensor part of your brain is not in action. It isn't saying, yes, I agree with this, I disagree with that, as you would in a debate or a lecture. You're actually in an alpha state, being completely downloaded with new ideas.
Throughout history, social engineers have refined techniques designed to control large populations.
About 100 years ago, this big organization with many branches, they wanted to rule the world basically using Britain as a nucleus of a system, an embryo, which also was going to be joined with the US under the Anglo-American establishment, wrote about the kind of culture and the changes of culture over a 100-year period that they would actually design, implement, and bring in. And H.G. Wells talked about it too. He talked about arenas. And he says arenas could be put up across the world for sports, for instance. Now, at that time, sports was something that children, school children were into. Adults became adults and got onto adult things. So it was unimaginable at the time that people could actually believe that there was even a need for adult sports and entertainment, never mind having arenas built across the world. But he said we can do this, and foist basically a sports culture for the males. Using a tribal system, we're all tribal to an extent. That's why we even bother to vote for a tribal leader. This is well understood. That's why we're supplied with these leaders. And because the average man was to become more disengaged from his own destiny as the expert class arose, it was decided that the males would get their outlet, basically, gradually becoming helpless as males through sports. Therefore, they'd have a tribal team they could identify with. They could cheer them on as they were winning. In their own personal lives, they were getting nowhere. They were getting disenfranchised, in a sense, as experts took over decision-making for them in all kinds of fields. So this was psychology at use, planned before they even implemented the sports. When radio came along, of course, they used that to the maximum. Sports for the men, soaps basically for the women, and then in came television, as I say, with its alpha state, its hypnotic state.
So evening time's on, French game's on, but we've decided to walk away from the viewport area because it's all getting a little bit moody down there. We saw about 20, 25 French fans come in, just walk through and unprovoked just attacked a table of English fans in the bar. Absolutely mad, wasn't it?
It's cat and mouse down at the port. Stink of tear gas around still. Yeah, it's not very pretty, if I'm honest with you.
And we've got the video of that attack as well. We're going to post it up on our video, besotted.co.uk.
Education is about inspiring one's mind, not just filling their head. And take this from me, because I'm an educated man myself, who only came to this realization after countless nights in the library, with a can of Red Bull keeping me awake till dawn and another can in the morn, falling asleep in between piles of books which probably equated to the same amount I had spent on my rent, memorize equation, facts and dates right down to the letter, half of which I'd never remember and half of which I'd forget straight after the exam and before the start of the next semester, asking anyone if they had notes for the last lecture. I often found myself running to class just so I could find a spot on which I could rest my head and fall asleep without making a scene. Ironic, that's the only time I ever spent in university chasing my dreams. And then after nights with a dead mind, I then find myself in the queue of half-awake student zombies waiting to hand in an assignment. Maybe that's why they called it a deadline. And then after 3 years of mental suppression and frustration, my proud mother didn't even turn up to my graduation. Now, I'm not saying that school is evil and there's nothing to gain, but all I'm saying is understand your motives and reassess your aims, because if you want a job working for someone else, then help yourself. But then that would be a contradiction, because you wouldn't really be helping yourself, you'd be helping somebody else. There's a saying which says, if you don't build your dream, someone else will hire you to help build theirs. Redefine how you view education. Understand its true meaning. Education is not just about regurgitating facts from a book or someone else's opinion on a subject to pass an exam. Look at it. Picasso was educated in creating art. Shakespeare was educated in the art of all that was written. Colonel Harlan Sanders was educated in the art of creating Kentucky Fried Chicken. I once saw David Beckham take a free kick. I watched as the side of his Adidas sponsored boot hit the patent level of the ball at an angle which caused it to travel towards the skies as though it was destined for the heavens. And then as it reached the peak of its momentum, as though it changed its mind, it switched directions. I watched as the goalkeeper froze, as though reciting to himself the laws of physics, and as though his brain was negotiating with his eyes that it was indeed witnessing the spectacle of the leather swan that was swooping towards it, and then reacting. But only a fraction of a millisecond too late. And before the net of the goal embraced the FIFA-sponsored borders, then was the prodigal son returning home. And the country that I live in erupted into cheers. I looked at the play and thought, damn. Looking at David Beckham, there's more than one way in this world to be an educated man.
related to sports. When radio came along, of course, they used that to the maximum. Sports for the men, soaps basically for the women, and then in came television, as I say, with its alpha state, its hypnotic state, and sure enough, around the 1960s, really, 50s and 60s, it took off. It really took off. And men became glued on Saturday nights to the sports shows. A culture industry, which is called by its own the culture industry. The Soviet Union had a department called the culture industry. Their actors and directors were called the cultural leaders, because they would, like a computer, people are like computers, all you have to do is keep giving them new updates every so often, and you can change an entire country or a nation or a block of nations who are all getting the same upgrades at the same time along certain paths. Today we call it political correctness. Most people want to belong to their peer group. They want to be the same as everyone else when it comes to opinions. In fact, they judge their own personal sanity by bouncing ideas off their neighbours and friends who will answer back and agree on these same topics in kind. It doesn't matter if the topics or what you're given are facts or utter nonsense, as long as everyone agrees at the same time. You'll say, well, I'm sane, and your friends will all agree because they've had the same information given to them.
But they've been programmed, and I'm sad because I know that it's hard for people like that to take an interest, a serious interest in world affairs, to take a serious interest in what their elected officials are doing. And they're not going to be really inclined to study or discover the deception that's being used against them. And so I'm sad because I see all of that in a flash in my mind as being an indication of how easy it is for the masses to be manipulated.
If it's on TV and a famous face says something, then it must be true. He doesn't have to show you facts or anything else. You've been brought up with these faces. That's why they keep these guys on television into their 70s and 80s. You've grown up with this father figure who's on television every night at 6 o'clock, in your house, in your room, staring right at you, and he's a father figure. Would he tell you a lie? So you naturally never suspect him. And this same man will lead you through new topics. He'll introduce experts on the topics. They'll have a little summary at the end of every talk, and you are now left with the conclusion that's presented to you. You don't arrive at it, it's given to you, and it's good enough for you.
Come on, England! Come on, England! Come on, England! Come on, England! No German bombers in the air! No German bombers in the air! No German bombers! No German bombers in the air!
programmed today perfectly, just like machines. We tie this in with the Brzezinski. Brzezinski said in 2 Ages, now this guy was way up with the NSA. He's a master geopolitician. He admits he works in 20, 50-year periods to do with geopolitics in other countries. But he said himself, the public will shortly be unable to think or reason for themselves. It was meaning by that the form of information that was given to them, the type, the formulas that were in use then in the 1970s. He says, eventually they'll be unable to think or reason for themselves. And eventually, he said, they will expect the media to do all their thinking and reasoning for them. Well, that's happened today. That's why people today can't think outside of the programming from television.
Zbigniew Brzezinski, Obama's main foreign policy advisor, talks about how a cult of personality can be artificially manufactured to influence the masses.
In the first months of my administration, to pull our economy... Oh, goodness. Sorry about that, guys. To pull our economy back from the brink, including the largest and most sweeping economic recovery plan in our nation's history.
We're gullible, but we're also willingly gullible. We want a human being, a big daddy, to come along and make everything right for us. And as long as we believe that, we'll always basically get shafted.
In addition to John, sorry, I just noticed that I jumped the gun here. Go ahead and move it up. I'd already introduced all you guys.
It's the presidential reality show. But when it became an Oprah production, it became slick. You don't have a president, you have an actor. They say that politics is show business for ugly people. You got it.
What am I going to tell the president when I tell him his teleprompter is broken? What will he do then?